Number 1 Boston University versus number 2 Boston College. It is going to be one of the biggest college hockey games of the year, the last decade. This is going to be mammoth.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. This is Locked On Boston College. I'm your host, AJ Black, editor of Eagle Insider, part of the 247 Sports Network. Thank you all for listening. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. Now, usually when we talk hockey, we have BC Hockey Blogger on, but he unfortunately had a commitment and could not join us today to talk about the Battle of Comm Ave. This is a historic battle this weekend between the Boston College Eagles, number 2 in the country, and number 1 Boston University Terriers. Why is this such a historic battle? Because BC and BU have played multiple times. I mean, they've played so many times in their career and in their histories. This is the only time that these two teams have been number 1 and 2 in the country. This has the vibe of a big fight feel. Like you remember those matches like Mike Tyson and Evander Holyfield and Mike Tyson versus Buster Douglas and some of those other big matches that you remember as Floyd Mayweather versus some of the guys he fought. You get those big matches and you feel like something big is going to happen. When you have the two best hockey teams in the country, when you have both games sold out already, both at Agganis on Saturday and at Conti Forum on Friday, both games are completely sold out. You have the secondary market. I went on Game Time. Tickets are going up upwards of $200 for the cheap seats and over $800 for the expensive seats. People want this is huge. This is a defining series for college hockey. You have something special here that you haven't seen before. And in a growing sport like college hockey is, this has a chance to be special. And it's on ESPN Plus, which stinks because who knows what they have on ESPNU or ESPN2. And I know that there's other reasons they can't do that, but it should be on a big network. If you wanted to expose the world to what this sport can be, get this on a bigger network because it should be. You're having, BC has 6 guys that are going to probably be in the NHL. BU probably has another 6 themselves. They have 4 of the top probably 5 scorers in the country. You get Kata Gauthier. He has 11-game point streak. You've got the freshman line with Will Smith, Gabe Peralt, and Jacob Fowler in goal. But then you look at BU, and they've got equally as much talent with Macklin Celebrini and Lane Hudson in their defense. They both have 32 points and 28 points respectively. They're 2 of the best players in the country on their team, and they've got a great goalie in Matteo Karen, who is a transfer from Brown. So this series is setting up to be something incredible. And then to make things even more incredible, and I hope you're watching along on YouTube right now, BC announced they have their alternates for tomorrow's home game. And these things are gorgeous. Look at these. They're using the old school Boston College Eagles logo from David Emma days, I think it would be, with the gold that, it just has that bright colored gold. These things are perfect. And again, you have a special uniform for a special battle. Now, this is the two games against BU in the next 2 weeks. They have another one in the Bean Pot. So BC, who, is playing very well, but you got BU. I mean, they are right now number one in the country for a reason. They're 16-4 as well. BC's 9-3 in Hockey East. BU is 11-1. And both fan bases are going to be out of their minds at these games. BC fans have been great this season. I think they're doing, and I don't even want to say what kind of, I can pull it up as we're talking, but every game, I think it's Barstool that does like helps them set up what the theme of the game is going to be. It's a whiteout. Nope, not that one. Sorry, it's not a whiteout. They haven't said what it's going to be. So there's no theme for this game as far as I know in terms of what the fans are going to wear. But it doesn't matter what they're going to wear because the students are going to be there. It's a hot ticket. You had to have, I think for students, you had to have a certain amount of attended games to go to get tickets to this game. And you got to believe that BU, Aganis, is going to be rocking the same way. So what should you expect? I mean, can you imagine the momentum Boston College would have if they were able to sweep BU? That would be incredible and show not only would BC be the favorites to win the Hockey East, but they'd be the favorites to win the national championship, something they haven't done since 2012 under Johnny Gaudreau and Kevin Hayes and that crew. But you should also be very happy as well is if BC can win one game. If you split with BU, that is a victory in itself because you're two very good teams. And when you play two good teams, you expect to maybe win one and lose one. So is that going to be more realistic of what's going to happen? I mean, I'm just excited to see. This is the first time that you're going to get these freshmen out there. When you get Will Smith and Gabe Peralt out there to do what they do. Because, I mean, Smith has he's on a 6-game scoring streak. You got Peralt, who scored 18 out of his last 19 games, and he's on a 11-point streak, game point streak in the first half. I mean, they are so talented, and this is their chance. This is Boston College's chance for these kids to come out and become legends. We're not into trophy season yet. That's going to start with Beanpot. But this is a chance for BC, these players that everyone knows now that are very, very good. They played for Team USA in the World Juniors. They've done a whole bunch. But you go out there and you beat number one BU. Like, just, think of what the excitement level will be like tomorrow if BC can beat BU at home. That place will be rocking. It's going to be such a big event. So I cannot wait to talk more about this next week. We'll see. It's a home and home, so 2 games. And I saw as well that NC State women's basketball coach is not happy because he has to wait for the shoot around because the ice is going to still be out there. So, wah, wah, wah. Speaking of women's basketball, they got smoked tonight by Louisville. So, actually not smoked. They only lost by 18. Sometimes in these basketball games, they can lose by quite a bit, like the Notre Dame game. So, in a moment, I want to talk about the upcoming Brad Crawford, who's someone I work with at 247. He came up with his ACC rankings. And I want to tell you what I agree with, what I don't agree with, and I'll explain why in just a moment. Now, if you're going to a game, you need to go to Game Time. Game Time is the best. It's fast and easy. You can go to sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. You get all the tickets. And right now, all users get $100 off when they buy a big game ticket with code. When they buy tickets to the big game with code Vegas100. With killer last minute deals, all in prices, views from your seats, and their best price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. As I said, I went to a football game last year. It was raining. I was able to find tickets underneath the awnings of Alumni Stadium, so I would not get wet. It was so great. And I love Game Time as well. And I used it to look up Patriots tickets. They're all in prices, means that's all you're paying. You're not paying extra fees. You don't have those other things that you get on some of those other sites. It's all there. So it's no surprises. Like, you see the ticket price, that's what you want to pay. You pick up those tickets. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Right now, all Game Time users get $100 off a big game ticket with code Vegas100. Terms apply. Just download the Game Time app and use code VAGAS100 for $100 off a big game ticket. Or if you're not going to the game, use code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. This is Locked On Boston College, AJ Black. And as I said earlier, I work for 247 Sports. I run Eagle Insider. It's the site for Boston College, and I hope you guys have all become subscribers over there. I'm over there with Beacon Street Ball, BC Hockey blogger Mitch Wolf, and Kate Otis. We have a great staff. It's going to get bigger. We have a baseball announcement hopefully soon. And one of the great parts of the site is it's a network of writers. And we have a national desk as well. And Brad Crawford is one of the national guys. And he does power rankings all the time. He does, conference-wide things. And one thing he did already is the ACC power rankings for 2024. Now, I'm bringing this up because it's a fun mental exercise. And I would love to know what you think about where they put Boston College. I'm sure if I asked you who's the number one team that he put on his rankings, every single listener to this show would probably get it right. And that's Florida State. And that's no surprise. They deserve it. They played well all season. They were just short of the playoffs, and they probably should have made the playoffs if you ask them. And they are bringing back one of the top transfer portal classes. So they have done what they need to do. Now, where's Boston College? Because I think that's what everyone wants to do. You skip ahead. You go through all the other schools, and you look to see where BC's at. And that's where we can have our conversations. And BC, they have it 13 out of 17. And here's what Brad had to say. One of college football's most exciting players who doesn't get his due nationally is Boston College quarterback Thomas Castellanos, who accounted for 28 touchdowns, 15 passing, 13 rushing as a sophomore last year, and led his team on the ground with 1,113 yards. He's dynamic with the ball in his hands, but unfortunately giveaways were an issue at times with 14 interceptions. Jeff Hafley's team won 5 straight at one point last fall before suffering a 3-game losing streak to end the season prior to their bowl win over SMU. That rhythm the Eagles found in October is something they'll need to bottle up and reopen next fall. So do I have issues with them only being ahead of Pitt, Wake Forest, Stanford, and UVA? I do. And here's why. Most of the teams that are ahead of them, I have no issue with. When you look at like Virginia Tech, they smoked BC. Clemson would have smoked BC. NC State, good team. Miami smoked BC. Louisville smoked BC. Florida State beat BC. But then there's some other teams that are thrown in here, and I don't agree with them being ahead of BC. One is Syracuse. I don't know why Syracuse is ahead of BC. They've been the darling of the national media, and I'm not pointing out Brad for this because I see a lot of folks doing this, because they got Fran Brown from Georgia, who has brought in Kyle McCord, quarterback for Ohio State, and they brought in a couple transfers and whatnot. I want to remind folks that the negative things that you say about Jeff Hafley all apply to Fran Brown. Fran Brown has done nothing. He's been a cornerbacks coach, which is about what Jeff Hafley had. Jeff Hafley at least was a defensive coordinator. I know he was a co-coordinator at Ohio State. So to be skeptical that a guy is going to take Syracuse and make them good, because he has them at 11, I think is a reach. Kyle McCord is a mid quarterback that played at a very good school with Amika Ogbuga and Marvin Harrison Jr., two insanely good wide receivers, with Travion Henderson, an insanely good running back, and 5-star talent all over the place. He's not going to get that at Syracuse. So color me a little bit skeptical that maybe he's going to regress quite a bit, because I don't even think he was all that great at Ohio State. He was fine. But I don't see Syracuse taking a huge step forward. Will they be better than BC? Sure. But the fact that BC beat them last year makes me a little, and I know they didn't have their quarterback. Next, Cal. Cal's not, I don't know. I will tell you a little bit about my thoughts on Cal. So Cal's coming over they're going to have a new. They went 6-7 last year. They, I don't know. I don't think they have Jaden Ott and his 1,300 rushing yards, 12 touchdowns. They're bringing in North Texas quarterback Chandler Rogers. I mean, he played for North Texas, so I don't know. I don't know why they're ahead again. And they have them saying, he says that they're going to challenge SMU for top billing. I don't think so. So those two at least. And then I saw Georgia Tech, and I could argue that I have a hard time believing them too, because they had about the same record as BC, and BC beat them. And they beat Haynes King, who if you're going to talk about Thomas Castellanos being inaccurate, he was about as inaccurate. I think he even threw more interceptions than Castellanos. So I don't know. I'm still, as I said, this is going to be a first for me this year, though. I do have issues. I have issues when certain teams I don't think should be ahead of BC or ahead of BC. But I'm going to say this again. This is the first year in a long time as someone who's covered this team, goes to the team games, has, I wouldn't say I root for BC because I can't because I'm doing media work, but I'm skeptical of this year. As I said on yesterday's episode when we talked about the schedule, I had them at 6-6. Mitch has them at 5-7. So I don't think it's that out of the realm of possibility that they could fall where they fall. But I still there's that piece of me that I can't let it go. That still thinks that you have good talent coming in, that something's going to click finally this year. But this year more than any, I feel more skeptical. So maybe at the end, I do agree with Brad. I just wanted to gripe a little bit there. Now, in our final segment, I want to go over the new ACC. And speaking of, we talked about Cal, how it just doesn't feel right. And I'll explain why in just a moment. Now, FanDuel is the number one sports book for the NFL. The NFL regular season is wrapping up, but there's still time to get in with the action with FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. I am still thinking Zay Flowers is going to get his first playoff touchdown this week. He played last week. He had 4 catches. He wasn't a big role, but I am really thinking that he's going to. But I also think that the Chiefs are still going to win because Patrick Mahomes is destined to just never lose. And so maybe I'll do a couple parlay with that, and then add in, I think that the Lions are going to win. I'd love to see Dan Campbell in the Super Bowl. But anyways, you can get all of that. You can find same game parlays. You can make your own parlays. They have some custom ones that they've already created. It's so easy to use. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet a layup with FanDuel, the official sports partner of the NFL. Locked On Boston College, AJ Black here. Thank you all for listening. And for all of you who are first-time listeners, I want to welcome you. We're the only podcast that covers Boston College 5 days a week. And I have this is my 800th episode. If you think that I am not as a passionate BC person, then I don't know what to tell you. I've seen most podcasts that cover BC max out at about 15, 20. And then you get your state-run ones that are being paid by the school to do it. But most other ones, they last 5, 6, and they get bored and stop doing it. I've done 800 of these, 800 episodes of Locked On BC. So I want to thank each one of you who have listened to this. If this is your first one, then welcome. If you've listened to many of these, thank you so much. Now, on Wednesday, the complete schedule for the ACC came out. And on it, for the first time ever, was Cal, Stanford, and SMU. And I want to say, looking at it for the first time, it still feels weird. I saw someone see the first week matchups, and with schools like SMU and Cal and Stanford on there, and then a bunch of other random schools, they were like, how would you explain this to someone 10 years ago that this is what the ACC would look like? You couldn't. It doesn't make sense, and it still doesn't make sense that this is what the ACC has become. I don't have a problem with it. Honestly, I'm not like the FSU fans who are, um, trying to burn the conference to the ground. I think SMU is a sleeping giant. I love playing Stanford, and Cal's Cal. I have nothing against Cal, and I have nothing for Cal, but I think SMU with their boosters and that oil money, they're going to be a good addition eventually. And Stanford, I think, is just a fun team to play against. So it still doesn't make it any less weird. This is the Atlantic Coast Conference, and you are playing Stanford and Cal as part of your conference. Maybe this is just the way the conferences are going to end up going. Maybe once Florida State traipses off to whatever Golden Palace they think is waiting for them at the end of this rainbow, and they bring along Clemson and another school, the ACC is going to continue to make its path across the country. Maybe it'll be some teams that are in the. I keep hearing that, like, the next thing could be the ACC trying to poach the Big 12 at some point. Maybe they're going to do something like that. They're getting more money. They're going to be able to do it. But it just feels weird. And I think a lot of probably old school ACC fans felt the same way when Boston College and Virginia Tech and things like that joined, or Syracuse and Pitt. I mean, more of those. So it's going to be a first, and there's going to be no divisions again. And you're going to have teams, for the first time, regularly traveling across country. You're going to be playing at Cal. You're going to be playing at Stanford. And the conference is doing things to mitigate that, but it's still going to make it tough. On Monday's episode, we're gonna break down the Battle of Comm Ave. We're gonna look at the two games, see what happened. We're gonna also talk about BC basketball's game against Notre Dame. Yeah, they still exist. BC basketball's still out there. We'll talk about that. And finally, any other news that pops up, we will be all over it here on Locked On BC. Thank you all for following. Make sure to follow me on Twitter at AJBlack247 and at Locked On BC. Thank you again for listening. I hope you all have a great weekend. And thank you for listening to Locked On BC, your home for Boston College sports every day.